few months ago, I decided to challenge myself to get to level 60 on Classic Hardcore, but playing as a mage which can only use arcane spells. With 8 levels to go, we are on the final stretch of this challenge, and in between us and reaching our goal are only a few select zones standing in our way. Whether I live or die, welcome to the final episode. Due to the launch of official hardcore servers, it's been some time since I've touched this mage, and in that time I've been playing a real mage, which are worlds apart in terms of power. So coming into this, I had hoped not to get overly confident facing enemies, and as luck would have it, I was quickly brought down to earth by the first quest taking a whole hour to complete. There is a quest chain in Searing Gorge that ultimately has us kill a bunch of elites to hopefully get the quest item. The drop rate for the item we need is very low, and each elite here is a formidable opponent. I would very much like to skip it, but the amount of follow-up quests you get from this is so crazy that it just needs to be done. But throughout the levels, we've built up a hefty arsenal of tools and gadgets at our disposal to help us with this exact situation. The net, first aid, and grenades will all help us tackle the elites, but even so, we basically have to expend every resource each kill, which is very scary. I completely skipped the fire guards since they simply have too much health and focus on shamans, but they are still slightly problematic due to an instant 400 damage cast on top of their heavy melee hits. Eventually I snuck my way into their base up on the ridge and fought mostly geomancers, which proved to be a bit more manageable thanks to counterspell and dampen magic, and we managed to get the drop. Our strategy for survival has always been to stay way ahead of the pack to ensure we are steadily over-leveling the enemies we fight, and this has worked well up until this point. The late game zones really don't have much going for them. There are some good ones here and there, but practically there's simply not enough quests left in the game for us to stay above the recommended level. This has two downsides. One, it takes longer to kill stuff with arcane missiles, but two, our main tool to speed things up, Arcane Explosion, becomes essentially impossible to use. Enemies simply have too much health and deal too much damage, rendering me unable to AoE unless I use arcane power once every 3 minutes, and even then it's sketchy. But it's not all bad. We still have a few upgrades to look forward to: the final rank of Arcane Explosion at 54, Arcane Missiles at 56, and a new gem at 58. While relative to the lower ranks, the late game ones are not as hefty of an upgrade, they still help me get the upper hand in the race to death against my enemies. Okay, but as you all know, I'm an up-and-coming YouTube channel focusing on gaming content. And you know what that means. That's right, Raid Shadow Legends. As an artist myself, I'm in love with the game's unique character designs, incredible art and detailed graphics. In fact, there are over 700 different champions for you to collect. And if you're just starting out, I'd for sure recommend picking a lane. Speaking of designs, one of the toughest bosses in Raid is Hydra, a clan boss with 6 different heads, like the head of Blight, which poisons you, leeches you, and protects itself with a poison cloud. But as with any strength, there is a weakness, and this head hates fire. Any good team requires a tank, and the Hydra has that in the form of the Head of Suffering, which with an ability called Pain Link reflects some of the damage back to your own champions. Of course, with the tank comes a damage dealer, this time called the Head of Wrath, which if you hit it 15 times, it triples its attack power. Then there's the Head of Torment, which applies true fear on your guys. The Head of Decay makes your team's healing lower their HP, and lastly the Head of Mischief, which steals your buffs, giving them to the other heads. If this sounds exciting to you, whether you're already at the end game or just starting out, Hydra Clash is a new clan-based competition, where with the help of your clan, you face off against 4 other clans to see who can beat the Hydra the hardest. Use my link in the description or scan my QR to get right into the action with insane bonuses like the epic champion Talia. Come on, what are you waiting for? Go! Once you're in and have finished the tutorial, come find me under the name Jampanos and join me in crushing your enemies. Thank you to Raid for sponsoring this video. If there is one thing I've hated more than anything during my time playing WoW, it has to be shared spawn quests. Nothing better than thoroughly clearing an entire area only to be left with a fraction of the quest completed, and only the wrong mobs respawning. Jeffrey Kaplan, if we ever have the honor to meet. But I lied. There is actually one thing I hate even more: full bags. The reason why I hate it so much is because I am unable to deal with it. It's just like a messy room that keeps getting messier, and the longer you leave it, the less you want to clean it up. It went a bit too far though, and eventually I had to clean my bags in my bank because up next we had to once again focus on engineering. I have been big time slacking on making grenades and bombs, and with enemies being so difficult to AoE pull, these will help out tremendously. I recently discovered that if I throw my grenades slightly away from the enemies, I can get an Arcane explosion in the time it's traveling, essentially giving me 2 free explosions, plus the damage from the grenade itself. Now you may think this is something I should probably have discovered earlier. To that I say, good things come to those who wait, or something like that. I'm not a poet. We are now approaching the extreme depths of the Arcane talent tree, with only 2 more slots left to spec before it's completely filled out. But the remaining slots aren't actually that bad, just the other talents took priority. Specifically, improving my dampen magic is really strong when it comes to enemies dealing magic damage, and even more so if they have relatively small hits. I basically reduced the damage done from these elementals by half, allowing me to pull quite a fair few. The thing is, it's really situations like this that makes this challenge cool. Just ways of utilizing the Arcane kit which previously weren't a big deal, but become huge with a distinct lack of tools available to you. I also managed to grab the elixir which instantly kills you if you drink it. On official servers this doesn't actually outright one-shot you, instead bring you to very low health. But remember, I'm not playing on the official servers, so this elixir would indeed just end the challenge with one simple click. And for some godforsaken reason, it's very hard to not let the intrusive thoughts win. Just one click, man, that's all it takes, and it can all be over. But I stored it somewhere safe in my bags where I would never accidentally touch it, and moved on. After a bit of this and a bit of that, we finally hit level 57 and unlocked our final ever rank of Arcane Explosion, which will help us out immensely as we move into our next zone, Angoro. There are few zones in the game as rewarding as the Crater. It's a light in the dark of quests few and far between, some forcing you to travel the world for a single morsel of experience, but in Angoro, 1 lap is all it takes. 1 lap around the copy-pasted circular exterior to finish each and every single quest it has available. Of course, there's one small thing to be worried about. The giant elite devil souls patrolling the entire zone, and with no slows to my name, pulling one of those could be real bad. But as long as we stay nimble and keep our eyes open, we should be more than fine. Although there is one more thing. Angoro is home to the Fire Elemental Invasion, which happened to be up. These dudes just spawn around the volcano in the middle and, as the weak card suggests, deal a lot of damage. But I was able to sneak around them and make my way to the top. But on the way down to the escort quest, I managed to completely disregard the huge patrolling elite that is the main antagonist of the invasion. Whoa! What the fuck hände? Är de här ute efter mig? Ja. Wow! Ring. Varför är alla ute efter mig? Vad hände? I have actually no clue what happened here. I seemingly ran past them just fine, but then slowly they started to aggro me one by one, forcing me to flee. Even looking back at the footage still has me confused. Like they clearly randomly start running towards me, even when they patrolled way past. Anyways, time for the big boy turn in. Let's see, 49% XP. Let's see where we're at. Okay, 25%. Not bad. I mean, there's still some more to turn in, so. Then after a quick world buff run, I stepped foot into Winterspring for the first time. As I mentioned before, I haven't really ever quested in these late game zones. Even recently when playing official, I was once again AoE farming, and the only quests I did were Angoro and Searing Gorge, as well as part of the Plaguelands. Basically, I'm on edge the entire time, ready for something to go terribly wrong. But that's still not gonna stop me from greeting a few Arcane Explosion pulls here and there. I also have this weak card that displays information about the enemies to help me, but when I tackle Gortesh, separating him from the pack with a split pull, I, for some reason, didn't really expect the warning does extreme damage, even though it's basically as strongly worded as it can be to mean 1k damage in a second. But with the net and arcane power, he was easily dealt with anyways. Finishing off Burning Steps, you might notice that we are only level 55, while the guide recommends us to be level 57. Somehow, even with a lot of rested XP, we have fallen behind quite a bit. Most likely due to the lack of dungeons because the server is dead. But forcing our way through and continuing questing will do us no favors. Even if we can do them, we will eventually just run out of quests as aforementioned. This means we are left with basically no choice but to grind. Our location of preference is going to be the fir bogs in the southern reaches of Felwood for 3 main reasons. 1. Getting reputation with Timber Mahol to at least neutral will give us access to 3 new quests. 2. They drop feathers which can be turned in for additional XP. And 3. They are low level and squishy enough for me to comfortably pull 3 to 5 enemies at a time. Now there was nothing else left to do than to sit back, relax and commit. Welcome to the long grind. Because we were rested, the XP per hour is actually very good, sitting at around 70k an hour. Of course, this will be straight up halved when the rested ends. There's actually a fourth reason why this spot is good. I have constant access to Songflower, which boosts my stats by 15 and crit chance by 5% at all times. I initially planned to stay at this spot until level 56 and then move up north to the higher level Furbolgs, but eventually decided against it since the XP loss going into 56 wasn't bad at all. When rested ended, I contemplated stopping there and resume questing, but I decided to bite the bullet and stay an additional hour before moving on. Okay, I think I'm gonna call it quits here. My gear is broken, doesn't seem like there's any repairs here, so bottom line, I was planning to go all the way to 57, but that's not gonna happen right now. So went a little bit over the goal of neutral, considering we have 150 turn each, 50 each, so it's gonna leave us just shy of friendly. There we go. Give us a good amount of XP too. On the way, we also picked up our final rank of Arcane missiles. Yep, here we go. Decided to go for friendly anyways. I don't know, maybe it gives me something. Probably not though. Ding. See, the thing is, not a single one of these do anything for me. I think maybe this works. Like the hit chance works on grenades and stuff, so I guess I'll just pick that. It feels weird coming into Western Plaguelands being so incredibly scared of the place I just previously spent over 10 hours at. But without access to the most insane kit in the game, being Frost Mage, the sheer density of enemies here is quite overwhelming. Bro, I can't believe I spent so much time here, but... oh, now that I'm here on the Arcane Mage, I'm scared shitless. Like, what am I supposed to do about these Scarlets, dude? Just patrolling. Go fight something, you nerds. Get inside. What's this? This, like, if I die anywhere, it's here, man. What the hell is this? That's my cue. And I made it. Phew. Okay, this is another absolutely fucked quest. I have to go inside the house now. And this isn't, like, the house alone isn't a wee pull spot, right? Like, there's probably 8 mobs in there. Recently had a guy I knew died like level 58 here. On a normal mage. Not great spot to be, but you know, if I play it safe, maybe I'll come out alive. Being this close to 60 feels oddly scary, like it's so close yet so far away. The XP per hour is slowing down, the quests getting more sparse and the enemies more dangerous for every new zone I enter. When I started playing hardcore on this account a few months back, I was deathly afraid at basically all times. I dreaded logging in because something could go wrong. I would even have dreams of dying in game quite often. Every near-death experience was more of a traumatic event than a thrill, and if something did happen, it could leave me shook for the rest of the day. But with time, as I've played more and more on this character and on official, the fears have slowly died away, and confidence slowly been built. And now it lets me really appreciate hardcore for what it is. It forces you to take the game seriously, to really feel the weight and design of enemies, quests and zones. Whereas in normal WoW you would run past the big elite with no worries at all, maybe you get dismounted and killed, but who cares? But on hardcore, you are forced to care. The world feels so much more alive and real due to there being actual risk involved. No stroll through a zone is leisurely. You always have to be on guard and respect the world around you. Or you could just lose it all. And to me, that's the real thrill. It adds the weight and reality of your surroundings into the gameplay in a way that softcore could never do. And with Eastern Plaguelands finished up, we managed to hit level 58 before heading back to the west where we hit quite a surprising spree of quests and efficiency, peaking at 100k XP per hour at one point. But this high would not last for long. Back in Felwood, we managed to yet again perform some solid AoE pulls with grenades and the final rank of Arcane Arcane Explosion. Then once in Winterspring again, we got to level 59, now 1 level remaining. On the actual Mage, I said that 59 to 60 is actually one of the faster levels, only taking around 1.5 hours. This would not be the case here. I started off killing Yetis for a whole hour at a solid XP rate of 15,000. But once that was finished, it actually picked up speed for a bit, until eventually I was fated to head into the most hated zone of all time. Silithus. And after a quick stint with a horrible quest in Angoro, we were sitting pretty at a solid 20,000 XP per hour for 2 hours straight, since as we headed into Silithus, we were greeted with the most abhorrent of gathering quests, where I spent an hour just trying to get a few stingers to drop. Man, what is this, Jeffrey, please? But praise be Elune, as I finished that up, all we had left to do was Hearthstone back to Winterspring and finish one long escort quest, and we had all the XP we needed to reach 60. In retrospect, is Arcane Mage that bad? Well, yeah, compared to a normal mage, absolutely. But compared to any other class, I mean, not really. It's not amazing, I'll say that much, but despite all that, it has some very useful spells. Arcane Explosion, Blink, Polymorph, Mana Shield, Teleports. In the first episode, I said that Arcane is the worst spec, but I actually think if you're only allowed to use one school of spells, Arcane is probably stronger than Fire in terms of leveling, because Fire has no escape, their slow is kinda bad, no hard crowd control, and no shields. And the only thing they do have is like way more single target damage, but that doesn't matter that much. What is up, Archdruid Fandral Stagon? Level 60. There we go. We reached level 60 without using a single spell school other than Arcane. We check Fire, Fireball rank 1 trained. If we check Frost, Frost Armor rank 1 trained. Never used. Verification status, pass. We've never died. Arcanist. Complete the hardcore challenge using only abilities within the Arcane and General tab. And it only took us 5 days, 18 hours, and 37 minutes, or 138 hours total. Now what? The server's completely dead. Oh well, I guess it's time to say goodbye. 138 hours of pure Arcane Mage gameplay is what it took for us to reach level 60, finishing our goal that we set for ourselves 2 months ago, and what a journey it has been. Thanks for watching all of it if you have, and I hope you're ready for the next adventure. Until then, see ya. Don't forget to use my Raid Shadow Legends link in the description or scan my QR code to get right into the action and get insane bonuses for new players with an epic champion.